What's up, party people? Today I want to show you how to prevent no-shows using GoHighLevel. And if you stick around, I'm going to give you the snapshot that I use to make sure people show up to the calls. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Clay Lawrence, owner of Review Harvest. You can see here's me up on stage at HighLevel. And you can see here's Stripe's screenshot from last month, but screenshots are liars. And so you can see month to date here, still a couple more days left, but almost $23,000 helping local business owners get Google reviews. So just a disclaimer, the frame of this call is that I own Review Harvest. I help local business owners get Google reviews. I think that preventing no-shows, this will apply to everybody, but a lot of the specifics I talk about will specifically be for selling and reputation management to local business owners. And so today I want to share what I've learned after booking over 1,000 calls. So if we go to my HighLevel internal account here, you can see I booked over 1,000 calls here in the last 18 months or so. And you can see it's a shame that I've done an awful job of tracking who showed up and who's not shown up. But when I was tracking it manually in Google Sheets to figure out my cost to acquire a customer, when I was running ads and spending a lot of money on ads, I got it to around 70%. And now it's actually a lot better than it was then. And I'm going to tell you why it is that way. So yeah, here's what we'll cover. So the biggest factors that affect your show up rate, we'll cover the calendar configuration and how to configure it to get the most amount of people to show up. We'll cover what to do upon booking. And I'll share my link to the snapshot that I use to make sure people show up to these calls. So first, let's talk about the biggest factors that affect show-up rates. When you make this massive list of all these things that would help people show up to these calls, a question I like to ask myself is like, what one thing would make all these other things useless, right? And so a good frame of mind to think is like, imagine that Alex Ramosi posted a public booking link for a 15-minute call that anybody can book and show up to. If somebody books a call with Alex Ramosi, what are the odds they show up to the call? Very high. Alex would probably have 100% show rate or very close because of who Alex is, because of his brand, and because of the trust he's built with his audience. And everyone that booked that call would know that 15-minute call would be super valuable and they'd get a lot out of it. And so unfortunately for all of us, we are not Alex Ramosi, and a lot of us don't have that massive brand and have a massive audience of people that already know, like, and trust us. So a lot of these little golden BBs, as he would say, are going to help increase those show up rates even without that. But long term, you want to think about what things can I do that are going to help increase my show up rates drastically. So that could be posting long form YouTube videos where you go in depth of how you do things, posting interviews with your clients that have had success, giving away really awesome lead magnets and freebies. And a story just to drive this point home was that in October, I was at the HighLevel Summit and I went to 2 seminars back to back, both by guys that make loads of money, both very reputable names, if I say them. And both of those little Q&As at the end, people ask, what do you do to increase show up rates? The first speaker had been posting long form organic content to a very niche specific audience for years. And these videos weren't getting thousands upon thousands of views. A lot of his videos were getting 200, 300, 400 reviews, but his business was making $800,000 a month. And so when he was asked about show up rates, he was basically just like, oh yeah, we get 80% show up rate. Send out the basic reminders, whatever. And that was just his reality. He just, hey, we get 80% show up rate. That's just what he expected. And when he said that, he almost sounded ignorant to like the fact that people really struggle with this. He was like, oh wait, y'all struggle with show up rates? It wasn't even a thing in his mind. The very next person who also made gobs of money, when he was asked about show up rates, he was like, oh yeah, we try to get like 55, 60% show up rates. And here's what we do. And then lists out like 20 things that they do before the call. And so that's just a story to illustrate the point that if you can build trust with your audience of people that already know, like, and trust you and provide value, then a lot of this stuff becomes less important. But let's dive in. So where do they find you? How do they book? So let's say you cold call someone or cold email somebody. They're going to be a lot less likely to show up to that call than if this is a family friend that you met at a dinner and we're talking and then y'all scheduled a call together, right? Another thing is, how did the appointment actually get on the calendar? So you can see here, 750-ish of my 1,000 were booked by the lead on like a calendar widget. 150 were added by me just manually, and some other ones were just coming from a Google Calendar and stuff like that. And so in my experience, when I'm cold emailing or cold texting, if I just say, hey, are you good for this time at 3 p.m. or whatever, and they say yes, and then I manually put them in, I get a little bit lower show rate than if I send them a calendar link and they book themselves. But one thing you also have to think about when you're going through all these criteria is you have to think about the total throughput of the funnel. So we might be able to get the most amount of people to book by getting them to say yes over text or adding very little friction to the calendar page, not asking qualification questions, but they might be a low quality lead and lead to a lower show rate on the call. And so on this call, we're strictly going to talk about, hey, how can we get the most people to show up? And then you have to figure out your numbers from there. So now that we talked about some of the factors that affect it, now what can we do to make sure we get the highest show rate? So let's go into the calendar configuration. Here are just some tips that have helped me, and I know Alex Ramosi touches on a lot of these too. So calendar configuration. Book in 10 or 15-minute intervals. What this means, if you go to like HighLevel and let's go adjust a calendar. So let's go to sales call calendar. We click on edit. We want to go to availability and we want to make it to where this meeting interval is like 10 or 15 minutes. That means that when somebody goes to the booking widget, they'll be able to book at 10 a.m. or 10:15 a.m. or 10:30 instead of just 10 a.m. or 10:30. And this just allows the prospect more flexibility in terms of what time to book. So they might know they have to drop Timmy off at soccer practice at 9:50 and they can't make it to a 10 a.m. call, but they can make it to a 10:15. And so we have to think about their schedule and trying to give them the flexibility to make sure they can at least show up at the time they book. Another thing is having a wide range of availability per day. So like from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So when I was running ads and spending a decent amount of money on ads every day, I had my calendar open from like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And sometimes I was taking calls outside of those hours because I knew I was spending money on ads. I was like, I want to get these people booked in for whatever time works best for them. Because people might still book on your calendar if it's an hour or 2 hours later or earlier than they want to. But if they can get their perfect time that works best for them, they're going to be a lot more likely to show up. And so all that is just coming to the availability section and adding like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and just adding that to all your days. And then adding weekends too. I mean, if people want to meet on weekends, I met with people on weekends all the time when I was spending a lot of money on ads. And then figure out the right amount of friction. So what this is like on the calendar widget, you want to get the information that you need to like follow up, obviously, and prepare for the call. But if you're like, hey, I want less people to book, I want more people to show, then you can just add more questions, more qualifying questions to that form. Because imagine if somebody fills out a 3-page document to meet with you, they're probably going to show up, right? So the more friction you add, the more qualified the lead will be, but also you'll get less calls. So you have to kind of find that sweet spot. Another thing is you want to try to book these calls within 3 days. So booking within the next 72 hours is going to increase your show rates a bunch. But I set our availability on the widget to 5 days out. That's just because if somebody's booking on a Friday or something and I don't do calls on weekends right now. And so like if it's Monday, if Monday doesn't work for them, I don't want them to just like not have the availability to book, right? And so I do 5 days out, but I want them to book within 72 hours. And so all you do is you just go to the date range and what you'll allow, and you just do like up to 5 days. So Zoom versus Google Meet versus phone call. So phone call is going to be the very easiest for people to show up because you just call them and they can just answer the phone. Google Meet's going to be a little bit easier than Zoom because normally they can just click on the link. They probably already have Chrome on their computer. It's a little easier to join. Zoom's going to be the hardest because Zoom's going to try and prompt them to download. They might have to update Zoom. It's going to be a whole thing. But I do still use Zoom. I mean, I just love all the features that Zoom has baked in, like controlling your screen and pointing screen, stuff like that. But that's just something to monitor. So if you're getting really low show up rate and you're dealing in the home service businesses, then you might want to switch to a call. Maybe switch to like a phone call, build some rapport, get them to like you, show your value, and then they might make the time to sit down on a computer for you. Full transparency, I've never done this, but some people do allow double bookings. And so what that is that you just allow 2 people to book the same slot on the calendar. So if you go here, you can just see maximum bookings per slot, and you can just do 2. And so what that does is allows people to double book, but when you call the morning of, which we'll dive into, you can confirm, and if 2 people show up, then you just sell them both. Or if somebody doesn't show up, then there you go. All right, so that's all about the calendar configuration. Now let's go to what to do upon booking. So the first thing when somebody books an appointment, if you didn't just put it in there manually or didn't just cold call them or whatever, if they booked it on a funnel or they booked it from an ad, I would try to call them immediately. And if they booked far out in advance, try and pull their appointment up. So let's say somebody books just now for 3 days from now. I would call and say, hey, Johnny, just got your appointment for Friday at 3 p.m. I want to let you know I do have some availability later tonight. Something open up or whatever. Don't lie, but you say, I do have availability tonight that wasn't on my calendar. Would that work better for you? And try to pull that appointment up. I mean, they're not always going to say yes to that, but it's also going to help you increase the show up rate a bunch, especially if they booked out far in advance. The second thing on that confirmation call is get them to add that call to their calendar. So say, hey, I'm going to email you. You can just click a button and you can add that call to your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar. That way, if they do use their calendar every day, you're there, you're part of their schedule, and they'll be a lot more likely to show up. Gift upon showing up to the call. So I think I did this the wrong way. When I did it, before they'd even book, I was telling them, hey, we'll give you a gift card just for showing up. And I think that kind of attracted the wrong people at times. But I think once they've already booked and you're calling to confirm their appointment right away, You can ask them a question, say, hey, since we're not meeting at a coffee shop and we're having to meet virtually, we'd love to get you a coffee. Do you want a Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts gift card? If you can increase your show up rate 10 or 15% just by giving away a $5 gift card per show, it probably makes sense unless you're selling something super low ticket. And then obviously you want some automated text and email confirmation and reminders. So you want to just have the basic stuff. You don't have to go crazy. We're going to get into some personalized stuff to actually make people show up. But for the most part, these people know these are automated. And when they know it's automated, they don't pay attention. And so you want to personalize as much as you can. Something I started doing, I did see a little bit of an uptick in our show rate, was I just sent them the screenshot of our calendar for the week, especially if we were busy. Just be like, hey, just to let you know, we're really busy this week. We're really looking forward to your call. Let us know if anything came up, and that time's not going to work for you anymore. So I do feel like this helped our show up, right? A little bit of scarcity, like, oh, this isn't just some kid in his basement or whatever. But I could also see the other side of it where people are like, oh, he's busy. I don't want to tell this guy anyway, and just cancel. I didn't really get any of that, but you might. That's just something that we do in our workflows, sending a screenshot of our calendar. So the sixth thing is make sure they perceive the call as valuable, right? If they thought they were getting a winning lottery ticket on this call, every single person would show up. And so we're obviously not going to be able to give them a winning lottery ticket, but we want to try to make this call seem as valuable as possible. So we can tell them, hey, just want to let you know, I already ran an SEO report on your business. I'm going to show you exactly how you're ranking. You'll be able to see it, and I'll give you a couple tips on your website and stuff that we could just improve. So no matter what, you'll get something valuable from the call. And you want to make sure they perceive those things like really quick wins. You don't want to be anything too in-depth, stuff that you would like need access to their website or stuff like that. Just little tips to give them quick wins and kind of make them feel good that you know what you're talking about. So the seventh thing is send social proof or some valuable content before the call in your reminder emails or in your texts. I help local business owners get Google reviews, and so it's not a super crazy sales process. It's like, yeah, we want to sign up for a free trial. So I do think that I kind of went too heavy on this at once, where people are like, dude, I don't care about your YouTube videos. I don't care about this, how to get more Google reviews overnight. Like, I just want you to get me reviews. I could be totally off by that, but I just didn't really get any response on the valuable content I was sending over. But we do send over a social proof. So we send over like a link to our case studies page. We'll take some screenshots of some Google Business Profile results before and afters and add those to the emails just to show them like, hey, this isn't your first rodeo. You've got some people results, and that this call is going to be worth their time. The eighth thing is just make it really easy for them to hop on the call, especially if you're doing a Google Meet or a Zoom. Like, text and email them the link. I know a lot of times people just send the link in their emails or just have it on the calendar configuration, but I love to text the link as well. I can't tell you how many people have Macs and they just have their messages open. They can just click that there, or how many people just hop on their phone, which I'd rather than hop on their phone than not hop on it at all, right? So make it really easy, make that link accessible, make sure they can find it. The ninth thing is call the morning of to confirm the call. So on this call, we're trying to show them, hey, this is going to be a valuable call. You're going to get something out of it. This is going to be worth your time. This just gives you another chance to build rapport and show them that it's going to be worth their time to show up. The 10th thing is that if they don't answer that call and they don't say they're good for it, you just pick up your phone and send a personalized video saying, hey, James, looking forward to our call today. I read your reviews. People are raving about you. I'm sure you're sitting on so many more good reviews. We're really excited to get you on board. Sending over a video that they know that there's no way this person faked this. Like, maybe with AI nowadays, you never know. But send over something really legit. Say their name, say their business name, say how many reviews they have. Make it legit. Because once again, when people know stuff is automated, they don't pay attention. And so to get people to pay attention, we need to do some personalized stuff to show them that we're paying attention to them. Another thing is just text 10 minutes before the call. Let me know if you have any issues getting on the Zoom, getting on the Google Meet. We just build this into our workflows. I think a 10-minute reminder is in a great sweet spot there. Like, they need to start getting ready. They need to start getting towards the computer or whatever. And then number 12 here, if they don't show up for the call right away and they're a minute late, call them and say, hey, James, are you having issues getting on the call? You can say a couple different things here, but don't say, are you still good for the call? That makes it really easy for them to say, oh, no, I can't do that. We need to reschedule, which means they're not showing up. Or we need to cancel, which also means they're not showing up. So just assume that they're good for the call and they're having issues getting on. Say, hey, are you having issues getting on the Zoom right now? Doing that will drastically help your show up rates. If they don't pick up the first time, we double dial because they booked a call on your calendar. It's time for them to be there. So you should double dial. And I can't tell you how many times it's been like, 4, 5, 6 minutes late. And I'm like, oh, they're probably not showing up. And I'm like, oh, I should call. I need to call. So I'm supposed to do. I call them. They don't answer. I call them again because that's what I'm supposed to do. And then they answer. And they get on Zoom. And then they become a client. And they pay you for years. And it's crazy that I was 2 minutes away from not following up and not calling and not getting the money I would have gotten. So if you do these things every time, you'll get so many more people to show up. which in turn is going to make you more money. I put together a whole snapshot of my sales call reminders. These go over kind of the specific ones I do for Google reviews. So a lot of this is Google review related verbiage, but the text, the emails, the internal notifications to yourself, like an internal notification the morning of, to call, what to say, all that's going to be texted to you morning of, so you are reminded to give those people a call. All that stuff's already baked in here, and then even have a review request for your business after the onboarding call is booked. And if you are interested in how I make a little bit over $700 per day just helping local businesses get Google reviews without any needy clients, you don't need any employees. I have employees help me out and go faster. You don't need any employees. Without any clients pissed about results, just a simple business where you tell people, hey, you want reviews? I got you. Then that's exactly what I help people do. If you sign up with my link down below in the description to HighLevel, you'll get access to my community where we have 400 plus people in here doing the same exact business model. So we're all learning really quickly. We're all growing. And the great thing is that this is not saturated. There are hundreds of millions of businesses all across the world that need this. It's not like these people are all in the US, which is crazy that we have people all over the world like helping people get Google reviews. It's awesome. And so you'll get access to my snapshots. You'll get access to my coaching calls. You'll get access to my onboarding call recordings, my sales call recordings. I don't really hold anything back in here. And if you want to watch a live sales call where I close a Google review client, check this out.